All right, we're good.
Good. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Tuesday, September 17th meeting of the Block Island Housing Board. We have a quorum this evening. Call the meeting to order at 5:10. First item on our agenda is public input. We do not have any public present. Keisha, did we receive any correspondence this past month? No correspondence? Okay. Then I would move to the minutes of August 27 and ask for a motion on those minutes.
We motion to fully discuss.
Usually you make a motion to put it on the table, then there's a second, then you open it up for discussion, and then you vote.
I will move to approve the minutes.
Motion has been made to approve the minutes. Is there a second? Second has been made. Is there any further discussion?
I don't know if this is important or critical, but we did, at the last meeting, we discussed moving today's meeting from next week to this week. I don't know if that's important to include in the minutes for the record or not. What do you think on that? You don't care?
I defer to Keisha.
Yeah. Not important to me, but
I'll check with you.
okay,
Yeah.
Great.
Need it.
all right. Otherwise,
Any other questions, sir? Okay. Then I will call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed? So voted. Financial reports. Entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
second,
Motion is made and seconded. Any further discussion? Questions?
Looks like Amy did move the money as we had talked about in the last meeting. So that looks good. I'm gonna be curious as to how we've done on a year-to-year basis. I'm gonna see if I can get that information. Where we were a year ago, with the year ago with the reports, I think it'd be interesting to see basically how we're doing.
in terms of rate of return.
Rate of return and what our assets are,
Got it.
and how our asset basis grew.
Some, we'll have a bump in assets because of the 350 loan grant from Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank. And we also received, I believe, $100,000 from the Rosa Fund. Other than that, our income, do you have an estimate for us right now, Keisha? How the fees are rolling in, taxes rolling in?
So it's the same as the last time we spoke. I think it was, what was it, 178?
Pretty close to 180.
Yeah, we
Okay.
haven't gotten anything since
Okay.
then. I think we've come to a halt for
And
this year.
And just doing this from memory, I think we were like 160 last year.
Yeah, or 150 something.
Some
Yeah.
pretty close to 160. So we're up 20 grand or so in round numbers over income in the tax collection. Yeah. But it would be fun to see how the interest is, these reports don't really give us a sense of interest income.
I wonder if we should have break out that. Break out. Unfortunately, I did the financials. And it's not at all.
Oh.
Quick.
Okay. All right, well, I will call the vote then to approve the financial reports. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Okay. Discussion of alternative funding ideas. Anybody wanna? weigh in on that?
Is this where like the discussion of a website?
No,
No,
That's-
well, I mean, could be, yeah, could be.
I would like this, I'll save my comments for the website discussion.
Okay.
okay,
They're relative. Specific to seeking out new grants, I have done. I look at document I created, it's out of date now. But it really is the best thing that I have to seek out sources of funding. And I guess I've not had the time to actually suss out. I had whittled down some of the groups that were on that list, you know, I've taken some out, but I haven't approached anybody because I think we should discuss, you know, how to approach people or organizations or solicitations. I don't think of, you know, before the big letter, I think of. Involved with grantees and how. A lot of them that I did try about 3 months ago. You know, it was very strange, you couldn't contact with one. And then like for Fidelity, I think I explained this, Fidelity said, no, you don't meet our criteria. And I said, on what grounds? And so then I got a hold of the email address at the organization saying, oh, that's old, that doesn't work. It's not accurate. So, you know, to me, that was something to go back to because you had to go. You have very large. Campus, Rhode Island, so.
go ahead.
So, along the lines of the public-private partnership approach, that is ground lease, a ground lease approach where, we offer that in addition to other things, and some organization comes in to develop the property and maintain it and take charge of it essentially. There's an organization called Omni Development Corporation in Rhode Island. They're a nonprofit, and they've been doing this kind of thing throughout Rhode Island on a much larger scale than what we think. But just from an initial discussion, they invited us to talk to them. And I forget the gentleman's name already, but he wanted us to come up with essentially a pitch, what we're about and why the partnership would be good for housing generally. But their focus is on affordable housing. Mostly in Rhode Island, a little bit in Connecticut. They've been doing it for a long time. It could be beneficial for us to send a contingent to them to walk through what we're about and what we're trying to accomplish with the Ball O'Brien property. I put together a deck of slides, which I'd like to sort of distribute to everyone. And what it is I'll send it electronically. It's basically just a little bit of our background, the Housing Board's general background, the specific background and progress to date of the Ball O'Brien project. It has a little bit of financials in there, very broad stroke financials. And then it kind of ends with a soft pitch on what we would be trying to accomplish in terms of a partnership without a lot of details. So I think it'd be a good idea for us to send that out. I don't know if we can somehow schedule a meeting between now and the next meeting. I don't know how we can accomplish sort of getting this package. I should have gotten it out earlier, but how do we get this package approved by the board so that we can actually initiate with this company. Um,
Did we forward this to everybody?
I don't think so.
No?
No.
Okay. All right, well,
I wish I had the ability to project it here, but I don't think we do. You have that ability, Keisha?
Pardon?
If I sent you a file, would you be able to project it on the screen?
I should be able to. If you send it to TNS Zoom
TNS Zoom, okay,
at newshoreRI.com.
okay.
I also have a printed copy here. Which we could run off if anybody wants to.
Yeah, I don't have.
Yeah, can we make some copies of this? Because I think, it would be great to use the
This
time
Show,
to go through it
absolutely.
today.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
thank you.
TNS,
uh,
TNS, what is it?
Zoom.
Zoom,
ZOOM.
all one word,
Yes,
at,
New Shoreham. RI.com.
okay, see,
Made a
yeah.
good noise.
Oh, we get it.
Oh.
Says it has left my outbox.
So this is, what's a private public? Is that what you said?
Yeah,
How you
so-
described it?
So essentially, yeah, so we would be, we would do what's called a ground lease. In other words, we would lease the property to some private entity for 50 years, if you will. They would then develop it
At their expense
at their expense,
and manage it.
based on some mutually agreed design. So the design might have to change. We might have to go through zoning again, but they would develop it and manage it. They would expect a certain, well, this is a nonprofit, so that's a good thing.
Are they doing it to benefit housing then?
Yes,
That-
they're all about housing.
Okay.
If you go on their website, it's called Omni Development Corporation. They've done this project is tiny compared to what they've done in Rhode Island. But they do it to benefit housing. We also discussed there was a meeting when we had some public members here. I forget the guy's name.
That would be,
Pardon,
Grant.
I think I'm gonna have to invite you to the webinar and do a share screen.
Okay,
it would be, Grant,
right,
and he had mentioned in his experience that somewhere around that 11 to 15% profit margin is what these types of companies are
right.
looking for. Now, might be a little bit higher because of the smaller scale,
Yeah.
that we have. So, they're nonprofits, they're devoted to housing, that's their mission, but they still have to make enough money to make the project work.
Well, that's, yeah.
So, because obviously it's a lot of capital that they have to put up and they're looking for interest on their investment.
Or you should get an email from TNS Zoom.
Okay,
So at our previous meeting, we said we were trying to hook up with this Omni group.
Okay,
And we got a date and Mark and I were on that phone conversation. And
okay,
what they requested was, well, can you put something in our hands that articulates what you guys are trying to accomplish and what you're about? So that's
Okay.
what Mark has worked on.
oh, thanks,
try it.
Mark, great,
Um,
thanks for bringing me up to speed.
And through on my phone, but not on my computer yet. Funny is that?
Tends to happen, it comes through on my watch most times, or it does on my computer too.
I thought read something about the development in the.
Yeah, they were in
minutes.
the minutes. And interestingly, just today, the other group that I originally reached out to, Neighborhood One, that's all of 3 weeks ago. They just contacted me today
Great.
and said I got lost in the shuffle. But they are interested to talk to us.
Excellent.
And they also have had some interaction with the island previously, which I was not aware of. And
This is one neighborhood,
one neighborhood has, yeah. And
they've dealt with the island before. That's what.
not the Omni group,
No, but the one neighborhood,
right? Because I was just saying that at last month's meeting, we had said we were gonna reach out to some of those groups that Jim Brandt had mentioned to us. So Mark and I had a conversation with the Omni group and preliminary conversation, and they said, can you put something in our hands that demonstrates, articulates what it is you're trying to accomplish? And Mark volunteered to put that together. The other group that I had reached out to at the same time was One Neighborhood,
Mhm.
and
Keisha, I request join.
They
webinar.
just got back to you.
and
Yes.
they were missing for in action for 3 weeks, but I just heard from them yesterday. Apologizing for the delay. And evidently, they managed East Earl's Ball many years ago and
Oh.
oversaw renovations there. And they dealt with Bob Agricola and Jerry Pierce, so they have some experience with Block Island.
All right.
So we need to set up a telephone date for them.
All right, let's see if I can. Have to leave the webinar and rejoin it.
Oh, looks like you got it. Good work.
Full speed, should be full screen, I don't know why.
Let me go back to, go back to the slideshow. Or view and go to presenter view.
Presenter view, okay. All right. This is. Cool. I'm gonna help you collate those.
Didn't fully go.
No. Now, if I press use slideshow, will that,
Yeah.
There- there we go.
Yep.
There you go.
That's good.
Thank you.
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks. All
All
right,
right, so here it is up here.
so Mark, want to walk us through it?
All right, this is, this is meant to be a pretty high level summary of what we do. First, I talk about us and that we're established by law, in the state of Rhode Island. And I give a couple, I highlight a couple of the things we're allowed to do. With some bolding where it's important. So we are allowed to have cooperative agreements with private organizations or individuals. So that's the first key. So this is something we're allowed to do, this private-public partnership that we're talking about. We're also allowed to rent or lease real estate the board may own. So that's the other key part of this. So this private-public partnership and ground lease is within our authority, if you will. Then I just come out, this is where we're seeking a partnership. So we own the property on West Side Road. It's approximately 2 acres. We have infrastructure and a building design approved by the planning board and the zoning board of New Shoreham. All existing plans are subject to review and change, and that right there just is saying that we understand we're not trying to lock a partner into what we've already been, what has already been approved. However, if we make changes, we have to go through that process again. So it might not be the easiest thing to do. We've been applying for Rhode Island Housing Authority grants, but not successfully. And I welcome any edits to these things. I think there are two issues.
Raise your points while we're going through so we can.
I think there are two issues that caught us with Rhode Island Housing, and that's construction costs are too high and affordable housing guidelines are difficult to meet out here. So that's kind of why, fundamental reason why we're looking for an alternative approach. So the private partnership, public-private partnership, I should revise that, would allow us to develop the subject property in accordance with existing or modified plans to provide the affordable housing. We envision it as some sort of ground lease arrangement with a partner or a developer. This is just a map of where we are. These are the existing plans, so I go through them not in detail. I do have backup in this package that goes through a lot more detail, but this is just showing kind of what we have in mind now. I talk about a little bit about the prefab, and that's what these plans are based on. I talked about the infrastructure layout. Continue, we talked a little bit more about the infrastructure layout, and then I get to the finances.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes,
Um. Since we already have like. Commitments to solar appliances and solar and clean appliances and things like that. If we do this, do we lose that?
talk about that
Okay,
next.
all right. Thank you.
So we've got an estimated cost of about $7 to $8 million. Of which 1.2 million is infrastructure based on a bid that we received in December. We, the housing board, has approximately $1.2 million on hand. Which includes the Rusa Foundation grant and the infrastructure grant that we received from Rhode Island. Our income, as you can see, is based on no more than 1% tax rate for seasonal rental. We, the housing board, don't control that. Town does, but currently the rate is set at 1%. And it results in approximately 150 to 180K per year in income that we have to contribute to the project. We do have a grant from the Block Island Solar Initiative of 650K, so it would behoove us and whoever we enter a partnership with to continue using as much solar as possible, including green appliances and whatever else we can include in this project.
So you added that part.
I did, that was
Yeah,
not,
that's good.
so yeah, it's different up there, Chris. I had not updated it since I got some of this additional data.
He sent us.
Absolutely, yep, I'll send it out. And then this is our objective. We're seeking a public-private partnership. We, the housing board, provide a long-term ground lease. Not defined yet. We use ongoing income to contribute to the long-term maintenance of the property, if necessary, I would add. We also maintain control over the ceiling on the rents. I use the word ceiling, we can put whatever we want. And that's necessary under the statute that established us. So that we can't get around that. The private partner is going to build, they're going to quote unquote design, develop and build. They would receive income from this effort so they could continue to administer and maintain the property. Or they can take that responsibility by themselves or hire a firm to do that. And detailed arrangements are going to be worked out between us or our lawyer and their lawyer, what have you. I want to add something on here again. I should put another banner on the bottom of this, like in big bold letters that says, we have a design and we have an infrastructure. If they want to change it, it's going to delay the project and we have to go through zoning again and that.
And added expense.
And added expenses, yeah. So I'll add a banner like that. And then it's, the rest is just backup. I talk about our annual report just so they know that we're legit and we do one of these every year. There's more infrastructure in here. And that's it. Just to let them know that we're, we're not just sort of fly by night and we put some thought into this. Yeah. So they invited us to give them something like this to understand what we're about and what we're asking for, and for them to consider this. Again, this is a very small project for them, but according to the gentleman we spoke with, their owner is all about affordable housing. That's her mission. That's why she's doing it on a nonprofit basis. So
Well, it might be more appealing that if they don't have to spend time on the design and all that, it
Absolutely.
might, that groundwork, the legwork's done.
yes,
So maybe because then they don't have to. you know, spend all that time and effort.
And money, we've
And money.
already incurred,
Yes.
you know,
yeah.
fair expenditure.
How their costs, projects that they do, that they.
No, it didn't come up. But we can have that discussion with them. I mean, their website is omnidevelopmentcorporation.com. This is it right here. And they talk about some of the projects they've done. They've been in business for a long time. They've done 1,400 units of affordable housing. So that's, they're quite established. They have you know, a lot of financial relationships with banks. The woman who oversees the effort is this woman here, and she is according to the person we spoke with, she is all about. I don't know how to do this on the. Anyway, she's all about creating affordable housing, as opposed to getting rich off this, which is kind of the person we're looking for.
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
You know, I think Art will have to explain our experience to her, in terms of it's like the rents or the prices that she's accustomed to working to in Providence and other places is not going to be the same we have out here, but that's I think that's part of the discussion.
Can I ask a question about our finances? So we won't be getting our 1.2 million back, right? Because it's just gonna be an investment and then rent over time.
Well, yeah, it depends on how the deal is structured,
Okay,
you know, how much,
because they'll be leasing the land.
right? So we're providing the land, so there's, let's say, $1 million worth of value right there. We've already gotten, if it's usable, we've already got design and infrastructure work.
Yeah.
So if it's usable, so they would then be footing the construction of the property, of the project, and looking, you know, that's a huge cash outlay on their part. So then they're looking for what's the return on that investment. So,
Right,
So-
and that's where, you know, all the discussions,
but I guess where does that leave us then?
Well, so one of the things I wanted to make sure we didn't say is that we're offering that $1.2 million to them. I'm just saying we had that on hand,
Right,
and all of the details are going to be negotiated. So I imagine one of our negotiating points is we don't want to go broke straight up front. So we need to
Wanna stay in
maintain some
business,
capital,
yeah.
to continue to make this a viable effort and look at other properties. So, you know,
and I can't remember, we had I have it with me. The pro forma that we did on our Rhode Island housing application. 16 units will generate X number of dollars per year, which hopefully is gonna come really close or exceed our
so that would be,
yearly.
that would be a good thing to put in here, because I didn't.
Yeah, so that.
how much
the-
we expect in return.
Well, I mean, and we'll see, that's math that they're gonna be very
They'll do it
concerned,
too,
they're
yeah.
gonna be very concerned about that, because that's where the profit gets generated, is we're gonna be generating rents. And so I'm assuming we're not gonna see any of those rents.
Yeah.
That's all gonna go back to their interest on the deal and a sinking fund for maintenance.
Yes,
And that's
So, and that's where the density, it becomes a problem.
That's
Our
what,
16 units.
I was,
gonna be-
my other question was. We pay for long-term maintenance of the property.
well, we contribute.
We contribute,
Oh, we
so it would be, it'd be
contribute.
the rents be contributing, but that's why 16 units is problematic. The more units we have, the more rent you generate,
Okay.
faster you're able to pay back that $7,
Right.
$8 million.
But if we prefer to use some other language there. to-
No, I'm
to
just
make this-
asking
yeah.
questions.
No, that's
Trying
good,
to
because
understand.
we wanna have as much wiggle room as possible, and we don't want to take on more.
I'm
than-
not questioning your language, I'm just trying to. Like, I know that's kind of been one of our worries about the rentals is
Yes, yeah,
breaking the bank,
yeah.
so.
So, Keisha, if I send this to you, can you send out to the whole housing board?
Yes,
Okay, so I'll send it to Keisha and she'll distribute it and we can make comments and then I'll update it based on comments received. But I think this would be a good starting point.
It's a great entree.
To pitch, yeah.
Mhm.
Great, great job.
All right, I'm gonna send this to Keisha.
I think, wasn't the guy's name Rondo, Rondo?
Rondo.
I think.
Because it
Can't think of
reminded me
it.
of the cab
I
guy.
can't think of the first name, but
Yes,
I
yeah.
have it in my
Okay.
email.
But you said there was another.
Yes, so Kearns, I think, is the guy. I just heard from him yesterday. I have not responded. He apologized for losing us. So I think the appropriate thing to do would be, I'll call him, see if we can set up another telephone conference. Would anybody, I would prefer to have somebody on that with me because this is not my strong suit.
Mhm.
So who would be interested in a telephone conference call with the other guy?
I think I'm gonna be pretty much unavailable for the next, 3 weeks or so,
Okay,
I'll do it. I admit time may be really crazy because I'll be in Europe.
right, right.
So
So,
Who's? the
but you're
other
here
guy?
till Thursday?
I'm here until Thursday. Thursday, 9 a.m. 30.
Okay.
Oh, the one neighborhood guy you're talking about?
One neighborhood just reached out to me the other day.
And that's who you wanna call?
Yeah, so we'll have a similar
Okay.
conference with him and I would assume
Yeah,
this is gonna do double duty.
yes.
So, Mark, thank you for
Yeah.
putting it all together.
Keisha, how do I exit this?
pardon?
How do I exit?
Just hit
Do I
stop
quit?
share screen.
Do I quit Zoom? Oh, you are sharing screen? I see. So
Stop share.
stop share. There it is. Right, okay, perfect.
Okay. That is great. This kind of number 11 on our agenda was kind of this item. But it has the same content as discussing alternative funding ideas. So the researching the public-private possibilities are one way to get alternative funding. Researching more grants, see if there's more money out there is another way to skin the cat. Private investors, which I think this document will help us with private investors. But I think we're also gonna need more than this, but this would probably give us something tangible to go to
Yeah.
private investors.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other ideas on alternative funding or comments on what we,
What agenda item is the website?
6?
Did we pass it?
Nope.
Okay.
We're still on board.
I thought you said 11. I was like.
No, 11 is we kind of discussed 11 with what we're doing on number 4.
Okay, okay.
It kind of was redundant. So are we good? Are we good to move on? Anybody else want to share? Mark?
No, that's
Is
it.
one neighborhood also a private public partnership?
Same kind of company as, okay, very good. Thank you, Mark. Really appreciate that. Good, a nice presentation. Okay, number 5, was discuss the land trust legislation. Chris, would you like to take a leadership role on that one?
Well, it's kind of incomplete. I met with Cindy in her office the day before their meeting, and we came up with items that we wanted to ask them from, based on the previous survey they had
Oh,
done.
excuse me. I think this was about the legislation.
Oh,
rather than
legislation.
poll.
Okay,
Sorry, but you're still on.
okay. So I circulated to everybody my comments on the land trust legislation. And apparently they had not been received or reviewed at the last meeting. And so people were going to do that for this meeting. And I just want to know if there are comments based on what I had brought up to everybody's attention, based on my opinion of what I think the legislation allows them to do. So my feeling is we have opportunities within the current language for affordable housing issues to be engendered by the land trust without any great need of state legislative changes. The town council may have to do some changes, but that is something that we would have to work with them and the land trust on. So I laid out for you where I thought we had opportunities, and you know, that's my position.
Oh, you want to walk us through that, Chris?
I can't because I don't have that copy in front of me. It didn't print out with my comments. I packed it, but it's not the one with the comments.
Let's see.
If you have printed it out, I can quickly go through it. It's crazy.
So you sent out the.
You did, yeah.
You know, it was a PDF and I added comments to it.
Yeah.
And those comments did not print out.
No, from July,
Yeah, I've got July 25th.
Are these the same ones I just printed?
Well, his comments don't show, so.
On my version that I printed out, I selected comments, I checked, they were there. So you have one with yellow highlighting there?
I don't. I mean, I have
No, Cindy.
several.
Here, take a-
So I opened these two. And then I opened this one. But it opens very similar to this one. Where there's some underlining, but not.
Yeah, I saw that, they're handwritten. Since you have.
I have,
Something that's highlighted.
yeah,
Okay, can I work with that?
you certainly may.
Okay, this is what I should have.
Okay, and then I have the regular
Yeah,
legislation.
that's.
Well, you wouldn't have marked that up. So that's the one.
Okay, thank you, Cindy. Sorry about this, folks.
I see.
Okay, so I just want to show you the document. This is what I had highlighted where I thought we had opportunities to work with the land trust in the town. And then I added some red comment boxes. So
Yeah.
if you have that, we're on the same page, literally and figuratively. Okay, so first thing, let's just start off at the beginning. Article 1, I had nothing. Article 2, I just said the authority that I highlighted is that all rules and regulations of the trust are subject to approval of the town of New Shore Town Council. So that's important to note. We need to go to them, and that is the one mechanism that we have for change. Article 6, we can skip through up to Article 6 was the next place I had highlighted.
Yeah.
The public priorities poll, the public shall be polled every 5 years. The Land Trust is working on that presently. I just wanted to make sure I checked. The last one was 2019. And so this is the year where they have to generate a new survey. Or they call it a public poll. Article 7, Section C, gifts of land may be accepted at any time. Below that, I wrote acquisitions considered must consider and include language to allocate and or reallocate value of such land, structures, et cetera, for the development of affordable housing consistent with good stewardship of Block Island as a whole. That is what I think we need to work with the Land Trust and the Town Council on. Presently, that the language or the practice, I would say, of the Land Trust is such that if they do any public development towards affordable housing, it's in the guise of open spaces, recreation, those types of things, but not in the development of actual dwelling units. But it seems like they could. And why do I say that? Article 8, evaluation of potential acquisitions, B, acquisition criteria. These acquisition criteria shall include, but then I highlighted, but not be limited to open space, significance, biological, ecological, environmental significance, recreational significance, protection of drinking water and aquifer recharge areas, protection of wildlife habitat, and agricultural significance. Now, my observation and opinion, without having studied this in great detail, is that is what the Land Trust currently limits themselves to, are those 6 items. They could increase that to others by the language in B, which states they shall not be limited to those 6 criteria. So I think that gives us a mechanism to try and ask for consideration of housing units. Section C of the same article, Article 8, selection of property for acquisition. Number 9, I highlighted urgency. Now, urgency is, as practiced, excuse me, by the Land Trust, is probably not the urgency of housing. It's probably the urgency of protecting, a valued piece of property for its scenic characteristics. And the other criteria that they have in Section B. Urgency, though, could include our housing crisis. Then we go to skip to Article 10, Statement of Purpose. I think this is important too. There shall be recorded in the catalog of acquisitions described in Article 11F, a written statement of purpose describing the reasons and purpose of the acquisition and the current and proposed use of the property. The statement of the property is intended to be used to inform future trustees of the reason why the property was originally purchased, but not to limit the future use of the property. So I think that's important. Then when we go to Article 11, Stewardship and Management, A, the trust shall retain any real property interest relating to land and water areas acquired in its natural, scenic, and open condition in a manner consistent with the purpose of the Act and with the purposes of any grant or device by which the land was acquired. The trustee shall administer and manage its land and interests as authorized in Section 5 of the Act. So to me, this is it could become a circular argument. What is the purpose of any grant or device by which the land was acquired? So if the purpose of the land was just to hold it in perpetuity, that is something that we would want the Land Trust to work on and negotiate and trying to see if it can make allocations towards dwelling units for affordable housing. the real problem I see is that a lot of the lands that the land trust probably wants to conserve are scenic vistas. And maybe people on Block Island don't think that those are lands that should be set aside for affordable housing. So we have to come to some kind of discussion with them on what is appropriate land for affordable housing. What would they consider appropriate under their stewardship and management directive?
So, was this going to be sort of the basis of that meeting that never happened?
Yes, in my opinion. But we have to come to an agreement, you know, that I guess a strategy of conversation with the land trust that would also be including town council as to what would be acceptable for these kinds of changes to incorporate dwelling units on these properties. And I think clearly nobody believes that we can get in the way back and the time machine and go back and change these things that have already been agreed to. But this is for going forward. The last area that I highlighted was Article 15. Questions that arise as to the applicability of provisions of the Act with regard to particular circumstances. It's one paragraph. When a question arises as to the applicability of provisions of the Act with regard to particular circumstances, the trustees reserve the right to render an opinion. Such opinion shall form the basis of future decisions of the trust. I just think that's important. Because,
Gives a lot of latitude.
yeah, but also it also can paint them into a corner. So I think this is a double-edged sword, depending on how you interpret it and which side of the argument you're on. But I thought it was important just to note that language. I have not figured out anything from it. And thank you, Cindy.
So, the other, tact that I think they have employed previously, is to help affordable housing in the past. I'm thinking back to, Beacon Hill project many years ago. And essentially the land trust purchased an easement on the open space of that project. And those dollars helped fund the project. So that was one way of contributing towards affordable housing, which I think they can replicate in future.
Could we ask them to do that with the Ball Bryan property, because we do have open space, right? There's parts of that, quite a bit of that property actually is going to be reserved open for, I'll say, gardens, playgrounds, things that are done.
Water
outdoors.
retention ponds.
Water, rain garden.
Well, hey, that is I hadn't thought of that. That's a great idea.
Okay. So
Yeah, something. Not gonna,
it's a
it's
great
not gonna get us
percentage.
$7 million, but it's something.
It's a great percentage of that property.
Yep.
Yeah, high percentage, not great.
And then I think they're very open, from what I can see and from, that what we have asked of them repeatedly over the last decade is when you have a project, when you are contemplating a project, that's the time that they're negotiating with the sellers, for, how the property is going to be used, what the restrictions are on it, etc. And that is the time a priori for them to say, okay, we're buying these 10 acres and, 9.5 of these acres are going to be preserved for open space. We're going to have a walking trail or blah, blah, blah. But 0.5, this site right here, we're gonna carve out, and that would be a separate sale to the housing board. And that I think they're very amenable to do. And they have already contemplated that in their acquisition over at Champlin's. Where the town just acquired that large piece for a marina, not a marina, excuse me, a building and harbor master thing. So they have housing, affordable housing already contemplated in that.
And that's all without changing legislation. It's
No,
only-
no, 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 wouldn't need a legislation change. They just have to have that a
Language.
priori in their acquisition, which it's there. And then hopefully we, I would love to see affordable housing go on the street side, close to the water line, sewer line. If we get a couple of affordable houses there, it would be fantastic. So they're very willing to think about that. And hopefully more opportunities will come.
I guess for us now,
I think now for us, what we have to determine is how do we put, well, I'll say my observations and everyone's observations of my observations and their own observations into a strategy to approach the land trust that we think, has a chance of being successful, at least, negotiable. We have to do that. And I don't know if these are considered, that would be a closed meeting discussion. I feel, we probably should be. Not that we are in a negotiating situation, and I think we should be able to keep our thinking within the board until we approach the land trust with it. I don't know. I don't think that's not allowed. I think it is allowed. But anyways, we have to go through this process where we come up with our strategy, I'll say our 6 or 7 bullet points and why, and make it into a document that we can give to the land trust for discussion at one of their meetings. So we'll have to agree to the document internally, I think, and then bring it to the land trust. I think that would be the process. If there's another process that people think is,
So
plausible.
the process that you're talking about is specifically asking them to amend their rules and regs.
I don't think they have to amend them.
Oh, interpret them.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of interpretation.
Interpretation.
Maybe if they would like, let's add to the criteria that that they have, add 7 and 8, that includes housing discussions and carve outs for housing. There are some properties that are, I'm going to say most likely are just not appropriate for this. But there are probably some that could be.
Exactly.
And so it should be part of their checklist of consideration when doing an acquisition.
Mhm.
And so I'd like to discuss how we get this formalized and before them.
Keisha, Chris has mentioned closed session. I'm not sure that it falls under closed session, but I'm not an expert on that.
It depends. Something I have to run by
Millie.
the attorneys.
Yeah, I think you can, personnel, property acquisition. It's the finances that, we are allowed to speak in closed session, but I don't think this would fall under it, but I could be wrong. So could you check on that? Okay. And then in the interim, Chris, would you be willing to, I'm thinking, write a draft letter that we could take a look at?
Yes. Yep.
So that might be the first foray.
And that letter would be a strategy.
Yeah, just outlining, basically what we just mentioned,
Okay.
that, you know, we feel that your rules and regs do have some flexibility for us. And, you know, we're looking forward to maximizing our future opportunities and value you as a partner and, you know,
Yeah, we absolutely require them as a partner. I mean, that to me is clear. We cannot succeed in this effort without the land trust's assistance. So we do need them. In this mechanism of
right, and
developing.
just from a practical point of view, I think, you know, they are much more capable of acquisition of land. And the types of acquisitions that they're looking at are probably larger parcels, at larger price tags, than we would ever be able to afford or would be, available to us. And as the amount of land and available property decreases rapidly, you know, we definitely want to be on their radar when they are.
So, yeah, so one of the problems we'll have to, and this is part of the discussion, but in the original act, not the amendments that you had sent out, Chris, the last sentence of section 1, with the exception of property acquired for public recreational purpose, the trust shall hold all property solely as open space or for agricultural uses or for water purposes as the trustees may determine.
That's in the actual legislation.
That's in the act.
And that is their problem, which is why if they're contemplating an acquisition prior to the closing of that acquisition, that's when the piece has to be carved out for us. So that they aren't, you know, they might be bankrolling it, so to speak. We might be contributing towards it, but we would be purchasing that piece that they are facilitating our acquisition of. I think that's the model that is that they are very open to, because their hands are a bit tied on what kinds of property they can purchase.
Well, that was in your enabling,
That's
enabling
the
our legislation.
1986 enabling legislation.
and then there were amendments.
The amendments.
We have the amendments, but the amendments have nothing to do with the
The original. purpose.
original purpose, yeah. The amendments have to do with,
So the amendments amended section 5 of section 9 of the original act
and two,
and section 2 of the, no, section,
here's that, I think the, amendment.
right, but at section 2,
That was about, how you can give exceptions to affordable housing purchasers. So, if somebody is purchasing an affordable house, they get an exemption. They don't have to pay on the first $200,000
Yeah.
of the purchase.
yes,
And if they stay, if they sold it within 5 years, then they do have to pay. And
right,
yeah, so those types of
but it didn't.
amendments were made, but not the purpose of their
Right.
enabling legislation.
But it didn't amend section 2. It's a further, so this is an act.
Right.
It has a section 1 that amends section 9.
Oh, in section 9, yeah,
And then it has a section 2 that adds a piece to section
Correct.
9.
oh, that's adding to section 9, yeah. Yeah, but this amendment does not
Doesn't
help our
us.
cause whatsoever.
So are you saying, Mark, then because of the enabling legislation, that it would take the state to change?
Well, I think we just need to ask some canny lawyer how we could drive it truck through that.
Okay, so the argument, and I think this, it's just fear mongering by some people on Block Island. And is that you touch that legislation.
Oh, I know.
You're going to lose the whole thing. And to me, that's just a spurious argument. And I would say, well, where's your homework to back that up? And should we talk to our legislators to see if that's their opinion
Yeah,
too?
it's just,
I think that's really a red herring.
I think it is too, but boy, it's people freak out about it.
Oh, well. Okay.
Okay,
Oh,
thanks, Chris.
lost my,
You're
oh,
on
there it
to.
is. Okay, so now we are on number
Chris's
6.
Next topic.
Yep, number 6. Discuss and act on designing a website for the Block Island Housing Board.
Okay, so the idea is, we are kind of under the radar.
Excuse me, the idea is that we are under the radar as an entity, I think, and that a lot of people don't know about the housing board and how not aware of the housing board. And we need to do some education, I think, to inform them what the housing board is, what it can do, and how people can assist us in developing affordable housing. And in looking at a few websites of other housing boards, just noticed, there's ways, there's a mission statement, more or less. There is examples of projects that have been completed. There is a need, current need discussion, and there are donation mechanisms laid out for people and who to contact for those purposes. Again, we don't have that. I don't think. I haven't seen that.
We do not.
And so why not come into the modern times and I always had the philosophy of, help people find you. You can go out and try and find a certain thing, but if you can help them find you, it's probably much more productive. So I would like to institute a website that helps people find us and help us with our housing situation.
Excellent suggestion. A number of months ago, we had someone attend a meeting, and they made an offer at that time to assist us with a website. We could, pool our collective thoughts on people that we know that could have those skills to help us pull together a website. We could try to hire a company. I think there are companies that do something like that. Anybody with a
Well,
thought?
so I really, we are a 50C.
501c3.
501c3. So donations to us are tax deductible. So I think we need to get out there the word either through an agenda item on the town council, through an advertisement in the newspaper, through something to say, we need a web designer. And this, whoever you are, we need you to volunteer your time. And oh, by the way, your hourly rate for building this web site for us is tax deductible to you. So we just need to get that word out there. So if there's some smart person out there who wants to put in, I don't know, 40 hours, donate 40 hours to us to design this website, whatever their hourly rate is, they can put that down as a tax deduction and we get them a receipt for it. That's one way. Hiring someone's another way. But that's just going to cost us money as opposed to getting someone to volunteer.
Mhm.
Getting someone to volunteer is great, but we need to emphasize to those people it's a tax benefit to volunteer. I don't think that word gets out there enough.
No,
No.
and that is what I know
Yes.
just by looking at, let's say, name projects.
Yes.
That. Nantucket's got one of the.
Sure.
It's not very interesting, but there are some things that I'll say we could mimic. In approach. So. Right, so I was thinking, we all could just go look at affordable housing websites, and my philosophy is to keep this very simple initially. If we want to make it more complicated, that can come down the road, but not to do that initially, because I think it would just be spinning our wheels and frustrating the way it's not.
Yeah, yeah.
If they're voluntary, almost, I don't want to frustrate the designer.
Sure.
You know, the back and forth. I've done this with other different websites and back and forth. You can tell that they're getting.
Yes, yeah.
Well, Josh Maldonado was the person who volunteered. Should we first circle back and just see if he's still interested?
Sure. And tell them it's,
Like
Make-
Meg and Josh, yeah, that's who I remember.
make sure they understand that it's tax deductible for them.
Well, you have to be able to use the tax deduction, which, yeah,
Well, you
So-
can use it over a couple of years.
Okay.
It's, you can, yeah,
all right, so
amortize a tax deduction.
I'll
Trump is doing it all the time.
I'll ask him and then if everybody else would think, if there's somebody else that you think of. And then maybe we should. Well, I'll reach out and I'll let everybody know. And if the answer is affirmative, then we can start moving forward.
Yeah.
And if not, then go back to your idea of
Yeah.
starting to do some advertising to see who's out there that could help us.
Right.
Just thought of another person too that could be. All right, that would be good. Good to work towards. Anything else on that issue? Okay. Item number 7, update on the extension of the Rhode Island Infrastructure Grant for the Ball of Bryan property. And with your permission, we'll also throw in the Rosa Foundation, fund, excuse me, fund. So I reached out to Allison Ring and we need to write a letter requesting an extension of the infrastructure bank grant. Keisha was working on getting all of the bills together. Could we make that top priority next week?
Yes,
Okay, that would be
I
great.
printed them, we just need to go through them.
Okay, good.
But I did find probably about 60,000.
Yeah, I thought the number was somewhere around there. So, then the request for, the extension. You have to write to outline a path forward to achieving the scope of our project by September of 2025, that 1-year extension. And that's where I was dragging my feet, because at this juncture, we don't have a means to move forward on that, to say that we can definitively move forward on that within a year.
I don't think we need to be definitive about it. I think we just say we request an extension on the zoning approval. Is that what you're talking about?
Not the
Sorry.
zoning, not the
Oh,
zoning,
yeah.
infrastructure bank, they
Oh,
gave us,
infrastructure bank.
they gave us money.
Got it.
We didn't expend it. We're gonna try to get some reimbursements for the engineering work that we did. But the balance of the money is such that they're asking us, okay, by September 2025. Write a convincing paragraph on how we're going to achieve our goals. by September 25. And that's where I'm a little not sure how to articulate it.
Okay, we could choose, we as a board could choose any time to move forward with the infrastructure related activities at that site. Right? So the convincing letter is that we are going to move forward, we are going to move forward with building the infrastructure at that site. Yeah,
Within the next year.
within the next year. And I think that's all we need to say, because we have that ability now.
Okay.
In the interim, last meeting, we were gonna ask Amy for the itemized expenditures that could go towards the infrastructure.
That's
That's what
what Keisha
Keisha
was
just,
working
yeah,
on.
she's got about 60,000.
We got about 60 grand that we've already expended.
Yeah.
Did you-
She just said that
I just
about
said
2
that.
minutes ago. That's okay. That's okay.
Okay.
Sorry, You're not used to that.
So I think we definitely.
Can you draft
I
that
would
letter?
draft it, yeah.
Thank you. That's, okay, that would be great. Oh, and then I just got another, email, which I haven't responded to yet. I'm overdue in responding. From, the administrator of the Rosa Fund, basically saying, so gang, we gave you 100 grand, we promised more, but, what's happening? So we can, again,
Again, do the. use it
respond
for-
that
yeah.
we're gonna keep moving forward.
Okay, so it'll be the same letter, basically.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll forward you that.
Okay,
But so they were supposed to give us 3 donations, so I'm just
but-
wondering when the next one would be up and if we wanna give them like the. Do we say, you know, do you wanna hold off on the second one until we get started or? You know,
I just-
not necessarily offer you the first one back, but I don't know. if you-
Well, I feel.
What do
know,
you feel?
That we could offer it back and ask them to reinstitute it when we're moving forward. Or we can make a case that we are moving forward and, you know, I just didn't know what was the right thing to do.
I mean, was it specific to any part of the project?
Yeah, right,
No.
okay.
Because we could also use it for infrastructure, right? And then. $1.2 million. Yeah, that was the infrastructure bid we received. So we could use all the infrastructure bank and the Rusa Foundation first tranche for infrastructure.
Okay,
Um,
you're right.
and we could use that as a. You know, we could ask,
You're just saying we don't have to wait and use it.
right, we could add, yeah. In the meantime, we could ask, well, it was Bain that bid on it, it was the
Correct.
transfer.
Yeah.
So we could ask them to, what subset of their activity would be appropriate to move forward with based on the current design, or if the current design of the house has changed. There's some subset of that infrastructure that's still gonna apply.
Yeah, the infrastructure will definitely apply.
Yeah.
So it's just a question of if it's appropriate to hang on to the money.
Do we wanna see what happens with these groups first?
I don't think we're gonna have fast action.
Okay.
You know, this is a process.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, I guess I don't think there's anything wrong with, I don't know, is there anything wrong with saying we're gonna move forward with the infrastructure? And the first tranche of your grant and the infrastructure bank grant is gonna go to that. So we're moving forward as if the project's moving forward.
My only concern is what if the layout somehow. So the structure that.
Yeah, that
would be.
that is, yeah, I
But
agree.
you can just go so far with it. That would apply no matter what the layout is of the project.
I mean, would one
Thinking-
thing that's not gonna change is like the road going in, like,
Well, the road could change, but I'm thinking if we're talking about bringing water, sewer and electric in, if we came from the street and only went in like 50 feet,
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
something like that.
I think that's,
But I think that might, you know, this going out a little bit, not, so I would think that would be the major part of the cost, more than the incremental of going to the buildings.
Running the lines.
Running the lines in.
yeah,
To, I'll call them headers, to you know, electrical headers, sewer headers, water headers, getting
Yeah.
them in. I would think be more expensive. To the.
and we could have that conversation with.
Okay.
Amy, but yeah,
Yeah, that's actually a deal, though.
yeah, so I think that's the deal thing to do, so I'll draft that letter and I think we
Okay.
can use it both.
Okay.
Um. Whether we say to the Russo Foundation that we want them to hold off on any further things until some data, that's maybe a separate discussion, I don't know.
Well, we probably should allude to it in the letter.
Okay.
Because, you know, they've been very generous and we want to use money responsibly and we don't want to tie up their funds if there's another thing that's imminent,
Okay,
but
but so along the same lines of extensions, if I can not talk about this, it wasn't necessarily on the agenda, but. We should request just the pro forma extension of the zoning approval. Just.
that was from Susan Bush, so I'll forward that to you.
Okay, great.
So basically, she just said, the board has asked me to check on the status of the affordable housing project. Is it moving forward? If not, should we discuss how to handle the 100,000 grant that was made?
Okay.
Which is fair. So I will forward that to you, Mark.
who wrote that?
Hmm?
Who was,
Susan Bush, she's their administrator. Because we want to be upfront and honest.
sure,
So is that the consensus of the board? Go ahead and write that.
sure.
Good.
And should we ask for an extension of the zoning approval?
Are we that far in?
It was approved, definitely approved last year, right?
Mm.
So it's.
I think you could revert.
Yeah, it does, yeah, why, it's kind of,
Lose, so-
right, yeah, it's nothing to lose.
So the problem is you don't-
Well, Mark, I don't think you should write that.
Yeah, I can't write that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will request.
Okay.
I don't think we need to, it's zoning, it's not planning, it's
Yeah,
just
it's just
zoning,
zoning.
yeah. All right. I will do that. Okay, anything else on?
No.
That? Okay, number 8, discuss and act on proposing questions regarding affordable housing for the Block Island Land Trust poll. So Chris and I were under the impression that last Thursday was a deadline that we needed to get that work done. As it turns out, they're not moving as fast as they thought they were moving either.
Okay.
So Chris and I had developed some additions to suggest to their poll. But now we have the time and the luxury of time to see if we want to do something different.
Okay,
So basically, and this one I have to apologize because my mocked up copy I gave to Barbara McMullen. I don't have my copy mocked up. Do you have yours, Chris?
Pretty much,
is this their poll that,
but.
Yes.
and you commented on it?
But
We-
he. You actually gave Barbara the physical copy.
I have other copies of the poll, but it's
Oh.
not in color.
Well, but I gave her
Marked up
the
one.
copy that Chris and I
Marked that one.
marked up. So we have to remember what we said.
Well, I wrote down.
I
Your,
guess they won one and lost, they won the first one and lost.
Is that-
the
Your extra copies?
Soccer, soccer. Didn't matter, they won the first one and lost. That's hard to get paid.
so Cindy, you had. Given them several of the questions that we developed, then I followed up with ones. That were not included when you gave Barbara, that I had notes.
Okay,
So what I have is,
This, I'm laughing because these are so like, tell us how great we are.
yeah.
Cause I wanted to, like, what's more important, affordable, at this point in Block Island's history, affordable housing or more open space?
Okay, so that company is no longer doing this. This is I'm trying to see where you're, what you.
Oh, there it is, attitude toward affordable housing.
well, get back what I got, gave to Barbara, I'm sure she still has it.
So is this statement is true? We've met the state's requirement.
No, that was one change, so, yes, we changed that. All the pages are marked 10, so it's kind of in the middle of the pack. Block Island Housing has met the state's requirements, so we did make that change, has no longer meets.
Yeah, and the page before that, the previous page 10, I have, Cindy, you had noted that. Some trails should be reserved or open to use for horses and non-motorized bikes.
Yeah.
Which is neither a land trust or, I mean, yes, it's not a affordable housing issue, but. Cindy wanted to-
Well, when Chris and I went through this, it was very hard to restrict ourselves
Yeah.
to
No, I add stuff in there that's-
To- just affordable housing questions.
Sure.
You know, so we did throw a few in there just as John Q public comments. But if we focus on the affordable housing stuff, let's look at, that page. Block Island no longer meets the state's requirement of providing 10% affordable housing. Do you think there still needs to be more affordable? I think we added, workforce and attainable or something, didn't we, Chris?
That is workforce is similar thing. That's what my notes. says.
Yep, so we added extra language there, workforce. Or attainable.
This is from 2019.
Yeah, so this is the proposed draft that they're revamping using their 2019 thing.
So. When that question, you think there still needs to be more affordable housing or rental housing built? And then we get such as workforce or similar housing.
Yes.
For that question, then the
Yeah.
next question. Do you think there still needs to be more affordable, attainable housing built? So I advocate for keeping those two terms in affordable and attainable, because that's really what the legislation is, for the state and the town, using those two terms. And the difference is affordable is a lower income requirement than attainable. If you have attainable housing, you pay more for your, you can pay more for your rent.
But I also think we deleted the purchase price thing.
Yes.
And we said on the first question, do you think there still needs to be more affordable workforce attainable rental housing? And then the second one, I think, should be home ownership. So we get a percentage of how many people think rental is compared to home ownership. We didn't talk about that, Chris, but it just came to me now. No, we didn't. But if the first question is about rentals and the second question is about home ownership purchase, that would be interesting information for us. We're trying to elicit, you know, what's good information for us to know.
Well, the first question about that is, and should there be more affordable ownership of rental housing? Should there be more affordable ownership of home ownership housing? I mean, what do you want to break it down?
Yeah, I-
Okay, okay, right.
just a thought.
We talked, Cindy and I talked about 513, and I don't think we really got that, I don't remember the time discussion.
We didn't, yeah, we didn't.
Okay, so I'll just tell you, 513 is enforcement in many people's opinion, it's key to developing more affordable housing, stable housing, in this environment. In private partner, private public partnership have, there's private, where people build their own on their existing properties as the legislation has changed. In some way to make it much more, much easier to do, as their enemies had highlighted in their reports. Language of the changes to the purpose. And so we didn't talk with them about that, and I don't know if the interest really has any interest in that. And so I'm noting that to the housing board, but I still think this is an avenue for us to explore to develop affordable housing. Not necessarily large projects, keep thinking of what Carroll has, so I'm a big moment of the amendments made by the town.
I think we added towards the back on page 10.
Ours are the new pages that you should just.
Oh, you
have
got
that
new
are
oh.
numbered.
Okay. Organizational ratings, we said, well, throw the whole housing board in there, we might as well get a grade.
Yeah,
Chris, I can't remember, we had something about how much is too much.
Right, that was
Um,
under in my notes.
on page 10.
Page 10, I would support spending taxpayer dollars to pay for solution to ban hotels. So if underneath that, I had made a note, what is the maximum percentage of reserves ban on what that we should take? Then equipment, currently at 8%. That does the compensation, because that 50% is the number that's often used, but as Lewis had pointed out, it's comprised of many things. And I thought the land trust said they would get the right numbers for what is the non-conservative on that. But they did seem to be open to putting in question, what is the appropriate amount? And I propose that if you have a chance to go above that amount, that's because of rewriting your new agreement, or writing your new agreement with flexibility, that you'd be able to trade off more valuable property for property you may have on the books and use that for developing things such as housing. So let's say the goal is 58%, I said, and you have this great piece of property that everyone says, yes, we want to do that, they'll bring it to 59%, 58.5%. So you have to do something with that 0.5% that would put you above the upper limit. So your agreements going forward today, we can give you that flexibility to do that horse trading. So I'm still here alive, they can shoot me, so.
Yeah, actually, the meeting went well. I thought it went very well. So how to make a succinct question that elicits data that's helpful.
We
Um,
need them. Or speak, how do they get it, you know, the town planner, I believe, has a, we did our presentation on affordable housing, that, done absolutely done. She had done all this work at the request of the town, I think that she has that stuff. So. We could ask Allison Redding, I don't know if we can ask her directly. What is the, what are the conservative land? Because Keith was mentioning things about some ways conserved that I didn't even think of. Like town ownership,
right, how you compile statistics is
Yeah.
always, you know,
so it would be really good if we could. It was Keith's land, I'm sorry. If you could come up with wording it, so we can get this data.
Definition, the definition of conserved land.
Yeah, and so how do we get to a percentage? That Black Land Trust should work towards. And then consider that they have done their job
Of conserving land,
of purchasing. You know, conserving.
the
land.
easements and all the, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, right now, the language that they have has no subdivision, and so mathematically, they can just keep conserving more and
I
more
thought the
land.
goal of the Nature Conservancy, I always thought wanted 50%. And they're really close to that, if they're not there yet.
So we don't know that number, so we need to get.
So cause the Block Island Conservancy used to like advertise that number, they used to put it on sweatshirts and.
right, and what the
The
land trust-
48%, and they would change it every year as it went up. So we're close to like. I mean, the last I knew was 48 to 49%.
But I think what they were saying at the meeting was that
What's.
it
what
was
are they
47
considering?
is what I remember, maybe somebody's been saying 48. But how that percentage is computed is subject to discussion, because statistics can do different things, so I think it could be more or it could be less, depending on what you include and what your definitions are. So I think on page 10, which would be the third page from the beginning. I think, help me remember, Chris, didn't we put a question at the. After, do you support or oppose the town's effort to create a new harbor facility on the recently purchased property on the Great Salt Pond? Didn't we have a question saying, do you oppose or support affordable housing component?
Should affordable housing be a significant component?
Yes, yeah, that we did put something there. Just to gauge the public's opinion on. Because if it comes in high, that will be more pressure on the Block Island Land Trust to make sure that
At that,
we're.
yeah.
Why don't I
Incorporating
clean this up and circulate it to everybody? So at the next meeting, we can get this to them.
And we have we have that time that you said. You said we have more time.
Well, we didn't have a Thursday deadline last week, because. Because why? They were saying,
Our next meeting is before their meeting
okay,
to possibly have a contract with a new surveyor. They have.
that's
not
right,
shared us
they had to
yet.
research, that's what it was, okay. All right, so Chris, if you circulate it,
Yeah.
everybody try to restrict yourselves to affordable housing issues. It's not our job to,
Document, you mean.
yeah, not our job to redo their thing. But if you come up with anything that you feel will elicit,
Everyone will have a chance to weigh in.
Yeah.
At the next meeting, if I go up, then we'll let you know. But I will make every effort.
okay, all right, so that's homework for the next meeting. All right. Nantucket Housing Board report, did everybody have a chance to wade through that.
No.
I mean, Could be about Wednesday.
All right, well, basically,
Oh, is this the, oh, that, yeah,
That one.
I've looked at that one.
Yeah.
Yes. I thought it was the report, not a, that a, yeah.
right, so I think that similar to what you did in trying to create a document for us, I think that we need to, be my opinion, that we need to learn from this report and create a presentation that promotes the housing board and gives information about the housing board. And again, would be a wonderful PR piece as we look for private public funding and private donations. One of the guys, Jerry Noonan, I think is turning some attention to this. So maybe by next month he might have. But if anybody's got, you know, some input on this, put a little bit of time into it and get your
Okay.
comments to me, that would be great.
All right.
And that was sent to us?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that did go out. Okay. Anything else on Nantucket? I also like their website too,
Yeah, that's what I like.
very nice.
Big donate button there.
Yeah. Um. We kind of,
We already did,
10 and 11
yeah,
have kind of been discussed unless somebody has 10, and if you don't have a agenda in front of you, 10 was act to design Block Island Housing Board promotional materials. We're working on that. We've discussed it earlier, and 11 was document presenting our Ball O'Brien plans, which is what Mark has worked on.
Yeah.
Does anybody have anything to add to those two issues?
no,
Okay. Discuss possible candidates for open board position. I made a phone call that never got returned and I dropped the ball. I will try again for the one person I was thinking of.
can you say
Yeah.
who it was?
Yeah, Jeff Ernst. I
Okay.
was hoping he might. The other thing too is, I mean, that's the easy thing. We can ask the
Leslie.
council to appoint to fill the unexpired term of Stacy.
And when was her term up?
She expires in December. So we could ask, you know, if we had a candidate, that would be great. But what do you call it, a write-in,
What
we
about,
could have a write-in at the November.
what about Emily Butcher? I don't know, she's at least, she has like the real estate background
And she has an affordable house.
and she has an affordable house, cause I also thought of Mona, but Mona doesn't have an affordable house.
Right, we don't wanna
And I.
make
that's,
someone
you know,
ineligible.
We were, last meeting we discussed about trying to get somebody with contracting.
Yeah, you're right, we did.
experience, so. We have over
Yes, we do.
two.
Too many.
You just, and you have a body in me, but I try.
That's good. Yeah, I think
Well, if, I'm gonna call Jeff again, but if anybody sees him, would you
Okay.
put the squeeze on?
I
And see
yeah.
if he might be willing to serve.
I'll mention if I see him. I drove his cab with some. Yeah, I have them too.
Okay, so any suggestions are? We're at the 11th hour,
yeah, I don't know.
11th hour here, campers.
most people can know are people who need housing. So.
Yeah. What about, John McCusker. You know, Alba's grandson or something.
He's not on mine.
He's not. Cause I thought my stepson worked. But he just delegates.
Well, he flies over. I see him getting off the plane.
Okay.
I don't see him getting right now. I think he's. He doesn't have a place there.
No. He used to, I mean, he had a business out here.
Yeah.
And he's lived, like, he's been on the island for a long time, but. And I'm thinking of the contracting, so
You know, it's a good. guy.
he's a good builder, yeah. Just thought,
Yeah. All thoughts, welcome.
I think like who some of the,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
this is an open board saying it's like. We're looking for somebody with contracting experience, but, you know. Well, we love volunteers, but we are deficit in. With contract experience, we put it that way.
I think that's,
Sure, yeah.
yeah.
And
I'm also-
Hey, you've gotten results from the bulletin board before.
is this an elected one or is this an appointed?
Well, we could get him appointed to fill out the unexpired term.
Got it.
Um,
And be elected next time.
or they'd have to go in the November as a write-in.
yeah, I was
So-
a write-in,
Yeah.
cause there wasn't anybody else.
Right. Sorry. So, it's just an easier route before we get to.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great, Chris, if you would do that. Never know who's out there unless we ask.
That's good.
I'll try to mention it to Jeff.
Okay, so, I will contact a couple of web people that I know to see if we get anywhere. I will request the zoning ordinance. You're gonna draft the letter for
Mhm.
Allison Ring and the infrastructure thing and the Rosa Foundation. Fund. We're all going to continue to look at Nantucket housing thing. And I will contact one neighborhood and try to get a conference call that will work.
Yeah.
For us to go in that direction. And right, land trust survey questions and
Send comments to you.
yeah,
Have them.
Good.
Excuse me.
all right. Everybody good? Anybody got a wonderful property that we
No,
know going
but
to?
I mean, I don't wanna say anything too much, but in July, we talked about a possibility. That,
That'd be a closed session.
yeah, so that's why I don't wanna say anything.
Yeah.
But I didn't know we were gonna discuss it. That's fine.
I am not aware of
Okay.
any further
All right.
discussion
Okay.
at this time,
All right,
but it is on my mind.
yes, I just wondered if anything.
I think we've already discussed 14, huh?
Yeah, pretty good.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion has been made to adjourn.
I'll second.
Second has been submitted. All those in favor,
Aye.
opposed? Chris, good luck on your surgery.
Knee, is it your knee or your back?